Welcome back to the Resident Founder Podcast, the show where we explore the intersections of medicine, entrepreneurship, and building something beyond the white coat. I'm your host, Daniella, emergency medicine resident, taking you behind the scenes as I build my own tech startup called PayScope MD, which allows physicians to get AI insights on their employment contracts in addition to real time salary benchmarking. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Antonio Webb, board certified, fellowship trained orthopedic spine surgeon. In addition to this, he's also an entrepreneur, content creator, and founder of WebbSpace. Dr. Webb's journey to medicine is a unique one as he served 8 years in the U.S. Air Force as a medic before starting on his pre-med journey. He attended University of Texas, San Antonio for his undergraduate degree. He then attended Georgetown University School of Medicine for medical school, then completed 5 years of orthopedic surgery residency at UT Health, San Antonio, and then pursued spine surgery fellowship at the Texas Back Institute. Dr. Webb began documenting his journey to medicine on YouTube, where he chronicled the journey of being a surgical resident.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've been out of practice in my sixth year. I finished fellowship a long time ago. Well, it seems like a long time ago, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think first thing is, something that you kind of documented a lot on your YouTube channel and even in your book as well is talking a little bit about your upbringing coming from Louisiana and Shreveport. From your upbringing, was there any like mentorship that you had in terms of influencing you to go into the field of medicine?
Yeah, not much at all. I did a medical magnet program in high school, and that program is really the reason why I'm a doctor today. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I started YouTube was social media is because I didn't see any black doctors online. I didn't see any. I didn't know any doctors myself. Nobody in my family is a medical doctor, and didn't really have like a mentor that I can go to can push me in the right direction outside of that program. So, but that program is the reason why I'm a doctor today.
That's amazing. I think secondly too, once you got into medical school and started being on this pre-med journey, and then once again as a medical student, what kind of propelled you to the field of orthopedic surgery?
Well, I went to Georgetown University, and at Georgetown, there were probably 25, 30 students a year that went into orthopedics because we had early clinical exposure. But I just fell in love with, I knew I wanted to do something surgical and fell in love with the surgeries, the camaraderie within orthopedic surgery, as well as the outcomes. I mean, a lot of times, most of the surgeries that we do are elective procedures, and patients are relatively healthy for the most part. And I really enjoy that, being able to help someone who has a functional deficit or some type of condition that's limiting them functionally. And we're able to do surgery to help restore that and get them back to living life. So that's what I enjoy.
That's amazing. And for you, you built a really big YouTube community and you started back, as a resident, kind of documenting with vlogs and also behind the scenes of you being a surgical resident. What was the motivation for you to kind of like document the journey?
No one else was doing it really,
Mm,
in terms of like blogging. Now everybody's blogging. But I really wanted to be like a source or inspiration for those that are coming behind me. And I was getting repeated questions like over and over again. And these were the same questions people would find. I had a blog at one time, and they would find that and they would send me questions about how to get into medical school or what's the best way to study for a test. What are the best resources to use? How do I go from international to the US? And something clicked, and I was like, you know what? I could put this in a video and I can send it to that person instead of me typing out, responding back to every email. So that was really the impetus behind starting the YouTube channel when I did.
no, it's absolutely amazing. And I think you bring up a good point of what I was also thinking about too. Like nowadays, you have a lot of like med influencers and people
Mhm.
vlogging and creating, but like, I don't think at your time there was anybody kind of doing what you were doing, which also kind of makes it really unique in terms of what you were actually creating at that time point.
Yeah, and then looking back, those videos were pretty terrible. I was just using my using my phone, sitting in my car, making those videos. But yeah, I mean, now I've kind of grown that, and like you said, kind of built out studio. It's in my clinic. It's called WebbSpace, where I have people in town that rent from the studio, and they come in and shoot their podcasts or photography. And then I have a whole team of people that help me with those things. I mean, my schedule's so busy, I don't have time to do all the things that I once did.
I think similarly, since you were kind of doing the YouTube and kind of growing your social media back within residency and obviously beyond, have you ever got any pushback from people being like, why are you creating social media content? Or any pushback of like, okay, why are you making YouTube videos, especially during a time in surgical residency?
Yeah, obviously. If you're a resident, they want you to be all about residency, especially surgery residency, which can be very busy and a lot of different things going on. So, yeah, I did get some pushback, but it's funny because some of those same people that gave me that pushback reached out to me years later. It's like, hey, Dr. Webb, I'm trying to get online now. What can I do? So, you just, that's with anything that you do, you're going to get some haters. You're going to get people that may try to provide some resistance to whatever you're doing. But, if you're passionate about something, you just keep at it and it'll eventually work out.
And like you mentioned, it kind of comes full circle. These people who are kind of doubting you and kind of giving you some critique are now, reaching out to you for advice. But I think it leads to my other question to you of, do you think nowadays with the role of social media that it's important for doctors to kind of have maybe a social media presence in terms of building like a personal brand?
Absolutely, 100%. It's the old days of looking up I mean, maybe some of the younger folks don't even know what a telephone book is. But when I was growing up, we had telephone books. And then when we wanted to go find a doctor or find a business, we looked in this yellow telephone book. I mean, now these days, they get online, and they search. So my practice has bloomed from social media. I have patients that travel from all over the world to come see me. Last week, I did a surgery on a gentleman from Mississippi, and he drove 14 hours to my office, and he did it 3 times and came back for surgery. And I was able to kind of help him with surgery. So, social media, especially for young residents, medical students, you have to have some type of presence. People have to be able to find you and search and figure out where you are, because the first thing that someone does is when they have, let's say in my field as a spine surgeon, they have cervical radiculopathy or some type of a disc herniation or pain going from their neck going down their arm. They're going to get online, go to Google, and put in those keywords or put in spine surgeon or pain relief from a disc herniation. And you have to be able to, people got to be able to find you. So, and that's really the impetus behind I have an online course that we're currently about to launch. It's called Social Media for Doctors. And that's socialmediaForDoctors.com. And then we're teaching doctors how to brand themselves and how to position themselves as expert leaders.
That's absolutely amazing. And like you mentioned, I think times have changed a lot in terms of how we use social media and consume it. To where, like you mentioned, like even for myself, like I also had knee surgery
Mm,
earlier last year, and the first thing I did was like Google the surgeon, and he
mm,
ironically did
mm,
have like a YouTube channel and kind of like
mm,
broke down meniscus surgeries and so forth, and that made me
mm.
feel comfortable of like, oh, like this is somebody I kind of want to trust. And it's interesting because like I feel like nowadays this is the way that some people are able to build trust with providers as well too, if like based on their social media brand, which is cool.
Absolutely. My patients, they come in. I've had countless patients. I walk in the room, some of them start crying because they feel like they've known me for so long and they've watched all of my videos, researched me, and they feel like they can trust me. And that just makes that encounter and my recommendations that much more digestible and something that they will adhere to, because patient adherence can sometimes be a issue. So I had one patient, we were rolling into surgery. I was doing a surgery and I was working with an anesthesiologist I had never worked with before. And the anesthesiologist said, "Hey, Dr. Webb, how long have you been in practice for?" I said, maybe, I don't know, a year or two. And the patient was like, "No, Dr. Webb, you've been in practice for 3 years." So he had watched all of my videos and, felt really comfortable with me, and to a point where he felt comfortable moving forward with surgery. So, but you have to build trust. Patients have to get to know you and see who you are. And like you said, the first thing they do when they leave and they get a referral from their primary doctor, say, "Hey, go see this urologist or this GI doctor." They're going to Google who you are. They want to see some information about you. They want to look at your reviews. And all those things have really, as in a practice of, I think there's 12, 13 doctors in my practice. I'm the number one or number two every month in terms of how busy I am, in terms of the number of patients, surgery, revenue, all of that. And that's because of social media.
Great. I think talking a little bit about private practice, what made you kind of decide to go down the route of private practice versus academics coming out of residency?
I'm more kind of business oriented. I thought about getting an MBA at one point, but I love business. I love building things in terms of starting various businesses. I love the aspect of autonomy and being able to do my own thing. I set my own schedule. Nobody tells me what to do, what time and how many cases, or what time I start my day, how many cases I do. As a resident, you got to go through your whole training. Someone's going to tell you where to go, what time to be there, and how long you're going to be there for, and what you will be doing. When you get out in training, if you go to an academic center, they can dictate how many surgeries you do. They can dictate how much you're going to get paid. They can dictate which type of patients you see. So you have to answer to someone. I don't answer to anyone. In private practice, I have my own business. And although that comes with a lot of responsibility, it has its perks, but there are some downsides. If I don't work, I don't get paid. So if you work at an academic center or you work for a hospital, you may have a set paycheck and that paycheck may fluctuate. Well, my paycheck can fluctuate also, but the ceiling is way higher if you're in private practice.
No, that's a really good point and really good for listeners too to kind of understand that difference between academics and private practice. I think similar to that too, when it comes to private practice, has there been anything that's kind of surprised you the most in terms of being in private practice and kind of like essentially running your own business in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be involved. So whenever you're submitting your documentation for payment, reimbursement, your E&Ms for clinic, surgical, or your procedures that you may do in the ER. You have to follow up on that because there's people that, even though they may be deemed as a biller or coder, you're ultimately responsible for that. So you can actually get in trouble for underbilling. You can get in trouble for overbilling. And if you're not paying attention and looking at the numbers, following your everything that you submitted, I mean, that's where a lot of people in private practice fall into trouble. So you have to be involved. The biggest surprise for me was kind of just managing employees. So I don't have like a hospital that or academic center that has a this whole department of people, that like an HR department that can manage employees. If one of my employees calls out sick, or I have to unfortunately fire someone, or I have to hire new employees. I just interviewed someone just last week for a new position. So I do those things, and that's what we do in private practice because we essentially you own your own business. If you work for a hospital or academic center, you have people that do that for you.
Yeah, I think the tough thing when it comes to private practice, obviously I'm in emergency medicine, so private practice is not as like relevant compared to like maybe surgical specialties. But I'm curious of like, I know you mentioned like you obviously have entrepreneurial tendencies, but like actually deciding to do private practice, I feel like sometimes might be hard because in residency, you're primarily affiliated, generally speaking, in an academic setting. So I guess like where do you get the confidence to be like, okay, I'm gonna kind of dip out of the norm per se and not necessarily go down the academic route and kind of take a chance on myself and go into private practice?
I mean, you have mentors you talk to. You have people that have done it before, um, in terms of who've owned their own business or started their own practice. You have people before you, and I read a lot, talk to a lot of people, a lot of trial and error. You make a lot of mistakes, but you learn along the way. Also, that's anything that you do in medicine. You get in practice, you get out into practice. You're not going to know every single thing. I've learned more since I've been in practice about spine surgery and about orthopedics than I did throughout my training, because the patients are your teachers. They teach you. They're going to come in. They're not going to be very classic for you in emergency medicine. They may not come in with the classic abdominal pain. They maybe present a different type of way, and you have to use what you've learned, your knowledge, your training, your expertise to try to figure that out. Maybe order this test, and then a couple years later, you'd like, that test probably wasn't necessary to be ordering all that time. Maybe I'll. This is a better way of doing it. So I'm constantly evolving in terms of my practice, figuring out how to best take care of patients. So, but really, it's ask a lot of questions, find mentors, people that have been in the space before that can guide you along the way.
No, absolutely. Always key. It's like you mentioned, mentorship is the key word there. I found a YouTube video when I was going back over your channel because I used to watch all your videos, especially when I was
Mm.
much younger as a pre-med. And I stumbled upon a video, I believe it was titled like you bought your first rental property, I believe, at like the age of 21,
Oh, yeah.
something around those lines. Yeah. Like, can
Mm.
you tell me a little bit about like why you decided to like get into real estate, especially that young?
Yeah, so I still have that house to this
Nice.
day. So I mean, yeah, it's been 20 years now since I've owned that house. With anything that you do, especially as a physician, I would say the first thing you have to do is you need to figure out your exit strategy because everybody's not going to be in medicine for 20, 30, 40 years. Some people will, other people won't. Just like an NFL player or, the NFL player, the average NFL career is what, 3, 4 years. Well, physicians, I mean, there's a lot of things that can come up. I mean, since I've been in practice, I've had injections in my shoulder. I've had therapy, neck issues, back issues. So those things kind of come up and kind of really impact how long you practice. So the first thing you have to do is figure out how long you want to do this, and you need to figure out an exit strategy as soon as you start. Before you start, let's say that's 20 years from now or 10 years from now, and then you start um, building up this team of people around you that can help you be successful. But in terms of like the real estate, I think it's important to diversify, and that's not only real estate, but I do a lot of index funds. I do a little investing in Bitcoin, do commercial real estate. I do a lot of different things to diversify your funds. So I think that's important to just as a wealth building tool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think also too, what would be some of your advice for early trainees, like people like myself, or even people in the beginning process of like how to kind of get into these things, whether it is real estate or like you mentioned, trying to figure out what your exit strategy is going to be like down the line. Like, what do you think are some like key tips and things to kind of be mindful of?
Well, you build a team of people around you, and then also start early. I mean, compounding interest is, they say, the ninth wonder of the world, but it certainly is very powerful. You slowly build up a team of people around you. I mean, when I first started in practice 6 years ago, I didn't have the same amount of people that I have now. Now I have a publicist, I have a marketer, I have a social media team, I have a videographer, I have a virtual assistant. I have a financial advisor, I have a CPA, I have an asset protection attorney. So you build up this team of people around you to help you be successful. So but I think just starting early, ask a lot of questions, read a lot, and just kind of immerse yourself in it. You, most of us have been so isolated in medicine that we neglect the other parts of being successful. And that's our health, making sure nutritionally, spiritually that we're doing well and we're staying active. We tend to neglect that a lot, and those things are kind of overlooked along this path.
And another thing we didn't really mention much in the intro, but you obviously balance a lot. You are in private practice and you're busy, you're a surgeon, you're also a father, you're a husband. So I feel like a common question too is like, how do you kind of like find the quote unquote balance of it all? Like in terms of being able to fit things like this as well as family time and etc.
Yeah, some people don't think of that. They don't refer to it as balance, I think a more appropriate term would be work-life harmony. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm prior military, so I was in the military for 8 years before medical school, and then what I took away from the military is being very efficient with my time and being very disciplined. So I can multitask very well, and I think that helps. But really, being very disciplined, being very structured with your day, I think ultimately that'll help you be a better physician, better person, better father, mother, spouse, if you're just very efficient with your time. And I think I've mastered that.
Gotcha. No, that's really good. I like what you said in terms of not really calling it more of a balance, but more of like a nice little harmony, which I think is probably the more accurate and reality side of it all. And
Yeah.
lastly, Dr. Webb, you mentioned a little bit about WebbSpace. Can you tell me about when you made the decision to kind of start creating that?
I've had the idea for a long time. I watch a lot of the YouTubers like Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon. These are huge YouTubers, and they all have their own studio. So I was like, man, I want my own studio. But I had never met a physician that has a clinic. I have a clinic um, that just opened, but I have a studio in my clinic. So for me, it's all about efficiency. So whenever I'm seeing patients in clinic or I'm in the office, I want to be able to just go right down the hall and jump into a studio session or jump into a podcast or a photography session. So I built my studio within my clinic, and my videography team will be ready. I'm seeing a patient, just like I jumped on with you, they'll be ready with the camera, the lights. All I have to do is just jump in and shoot some content. That's really the impetus behind starting the web space. And before I used to rent studio time from places or pay for podcasting time. So just we had to find a space to go shoot. But there was one celebrity I was supposed to shoot a couple years ago, and he gave me like he was here for a whole weekend, but he gave me like 1 hour. He said, "Hey, I can shoot at two p.m. on this day here." I was like, "Crap!" And I couldn't find studio time, and it had already been booked up. So after that, I was like, "I'm that's never going to happen again. I'm gonna find me a space and build my own thing out." But yeah, it's been good so far, and I love having my own place to just go in and shoot some content.
Absolutely. And you mentioned too, you have people who rent the space as well, but do you have any like big future directions in terms of like what you kind of see using the space to become?
A kind of a ecosystem for doctors. I have a lot of doctors that we work with in terms of building their brand or their social media presence, but really just revolutionizing kind of the whole social media and branding space. So that physicians, if they want to shoot or opportunity to create content, they can fly to San Antonio. We'll have a whole team of people that will be
Absolutely. No, I think that's amazing. And I think once again, it's going to be a huge inspiration for a lot of doctors, as you mentioned previously, too, about building their personal brand, starting up businesses and so forth. So I think that's absolutely amazing. So, Dr. Webb, I know you're going to be a little bit busy and have to kind of jump off soon, but where can people find you, be able to connect? And if you can plug in once again for your social media course as well.
Yeah, so if you just search Antonio Webb MD, and that's most of my platforms on YouTube, LinkedIn. My website is AntonioWebbMD.com. And then social media for doctors is socialmediafordoctors.com. And so hopefully a lot of great things that are kind of coming out in 2026. So feel free to reach out. Don't be a stranger. And yeah, thanks for having me on your platform here.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure to put all the links down below so that people can connect with you and find you as well for all your courses. Thank you once again for joining me as being part of the Resident Founder podcast. For all of you listening, make sure you make a like, share, subscribe, as well as make a review. And until next time, thank you.
All right. No worries.